the people that have the money are the institutional investors, and the people that can organize the money are the corporations. And if you want to win the monetary war, you need the institutions that control all the capital, and you need the corporations to get involved, because you need the support of the government. The government can, with a stroke of a pen, right, block 99% of all the capital from flowing into a network, or they can enable it.
In the race to redefine money, one truth stands clear: Bitcoin cannot win alone. Michael Saylor reminds us that revolutions aren't powered by passion alone. They're secured by power, structure, and capital. He paints a picture of a monetary battlefield where miners, corporations, and governments each hold a line of defense. Miners guard the network with raw energy. Treasury-backed companies defend it with capital and balance sheets. Exchanges, on the other hand, open the gates, building the apps, platforms, and interfaces that bring Bitcoin into everyday life. But the real game, Saylor insists, begins with institutions. These are the entities that move billions with a signature, shape laws with lobbyists, and sway governments with influence. In his view, if Bitcoin is to survive the storm of regulation and politics, it must have allies in high places, corporations strong enough to stand between innovation and the iron fist of policy. He calls this not a betrayal of Bitcoin's ideals, but their evolution. Because the same corporations people often distrust are the ones capable of ensuring Bitcoin isn't taxed into extinction or banned out of existence. In Saylor's analogy, Bitcoin is like the English language, a universal protocol for value. You wouldn't resent others for speaking it. You'd want everyone to understand it, even those you disagree with. The message is subtle but profound. The wider the adoption, the safer the network. The more powerful its speakers, the more global its protection. So the question becomes, will Bitcoin remain the language of the few, or will it become the financial tongue of the world? Because if Saylor is right, freedom isn't found in isolation, it's secured through unification, when miners, corporations, and nations all speak the same monetary language, Bitcoin. Now, let's hear more from Michael Saylor.
The corporations are very important actors in this, right? They're the ones that are going to hire the lobbyists. They're the ones who are going to do the marketing. They're the ones that are going to defend the network and the individual, right, from having their Bitcoin seized, from having their Bitcoin shut down, or from having a 95% tax on the Bitcoin, right? The reason that'll happen is because the corporations are a line of defense. You know, when I think about Bitcoin, I think the miners, you know, are the first line of technical defense. They're defending the network with energy and power. And the Bitcoin treasury companies are the first line of economic defense. They're defending the network with capital, right? And even the Bitcoin exchanges, right, are the first line of defense. Technically, they're the ones that are going to implement the iPhone apps, the Android apps, right, the websites. And you really want very healthy exchanges, healthy treasuries, healthy miners. You want them to get big. You want them to be well capitalized. You want them everywhere in the world, right? The Bitcoin treasury company in Shanghai will lobby for the interest of Bitcoin with the Chinese government, right? You have to speak Chinese. You're going to have to be in Beijing if you're going to fight for Bitcoin. And it won't be the individual. It'll be the corporation, and the better capitalized, the more effective they'll be. So I don't think there's any conflict of interest. It's not a zero-sum game. If the world is going to embrace Bitcoin fully, that means corporations, banks, exchanges, operating companies, cities, states, federal governments. You want them all to embrace Bitcoin. You don't want to leave anybody out, right? And it's the last observation I'll make is, you know, Bitcoin's like speaking English. You know, if you spoke English and you're an individual and you found out that the most powerful person in the world also spoke English, would you be offended? You know, and if you found out that the people that run the bank that have all the money in the world in it also spoke English and offered websites in English, And if Apple and Google and Meta also offered software that ran in English, would you think, wow, they took my language, I want them to give it back? I don't, if your dentist speaks English and the doctor speaks English and the cab driver speaks English and the pilot speaks English, is that bad for you? I don't think so. I think ultimately you want all of the rich, powerful, influential people, even the ones you disagree with, you want them all to speak your language. You want them to adopt your protocol. But if they're doing something that's bad for you, you want to see it coming and understand that they did it, right? And so Bitcoin is a protocol. Ultimately, you want everybody to use the protocol. The world's going to be a better place, and you're going to be better for their embrace of the protocol.
Cool. Do you see any parallels between sort of this equity strategy and the current administration's stated goal of being, a global Bitcoin superpower?
No. I think when the administration says they want to be a global Bitcoin superpower, they mean they want to encourage banks to bank Bitcoin. They want our banking system to embrace it, to extend loans against it, to offer, yield or credit against it. They want to enable transactions. They want Apple and Google and Meta and Microsoft to support Bitcoin. They want public companies to be able to buy Bitcoin. They want an explosion and expansion of institutional grade Bitcoin custodians. They want favorable tax laws for Bitcoin, favorable security laws for Bitcoin, and they want the finance companies in the United States, whether it's BlackRock or whether it's Coinbase or whether it's Strategy or whether it's Block, they want the finance companies in the United States to lead the way in digital assets and digital capital and Bitcoin adoption. Bitcoin is the monetary base of the crypto economy. It is the monetary crypto network. It is digital gold. If you go back 3,000 years, go back and read the Persian expedition by Xenophon. It's about 600 BC-ish. And Xenophon's writing about a bunch of Athenians and Spartans that are mercenaries, and they go into Asia Minor, and then they charge all the way through Babylon to Persia, and they're fighting for, Cyrus against his brother, and Cyrus gets killed, and they have to make their way back to Greece. They have to cross 800 miles of hostile territory, and they fight their way back through 100 tribes. All the tribes speak a different language. They all have a different culture. They all want to kill each other. The Athenians don't trust the Spartans. The Spartans don't trust the Athenians. No one trusts the Persians, right? It's nonstop bloodshed and war, and this is before the Lydian coins. This is before we have coinage. Now, here's the thing that's interesting about the story. The one thing they agree on is they all want to kill each other for gold. They all want gold. Now, why do they want gold? Somehow, 600 BC, everybody agreed that gold was valuable and gold was money, even though they could not agree on their gods, their cultures. They couldn't agree on anything else. But what's fascinating is the book takes it for granted that gold is money. Gold has been valued by thousands and thousands of different cultures, all killing each other, speaking different languages, worshiping different gods, but they're all fighting over gold. And so gold emerged as the primary monetary metal, not silver, not bronze, gold. For 300 years, if you look at the 17th century, the 18th century, the 19th century, even into most of the 20th century, the world revolved around gold-backed credit. Okay, we issued bonds backed by gold. The British bonds, sovereign debt in Britain in 1770, it's a gold-backed bond. In the Rothschilds' times, they had gold-backed bonds, right? The French bonds were gold-backed. The German bonds, the Austrian bonds, the Spanish bonds, gold-backed. All of the credit instruments were, to a certain degree, backed by gold, and they would go off the gold standard and back on the gold standard. But this idea of gold-backed credit goes from the 1700s to the 1800s to the 1900s, all the way through 1971. And so we have hundreds and hundreds of years of gold-backed credit instruments. Then we have to wait, and Satoshi invents Bitcoin, and we fight over what is it, and no one can decide. And now, in the year 2025, we have consensus that Bitcoin is digital gold. So on the CNBC, talking heads agree on it. Everyone in the crypto economy agrees Bitcoin is the monetary foundation. It's digital gold. What are the other cryptos? Maybe they're digital silver, maybe they're digital copper, maybe they're digital palladium or digital platinum or digital silicon, but the history of Western civilization isn't based on copper bonds, right? And there was an experiment with silver, but silver bonds didn't really fly. Primarily, we settled upon one metallic monetary network, and now we're settling on one crypto monetary network. So what is a Bitcoin treasury company? Well, there are two profound paradigm shifts. One, Bitcoin, digital capital, right? Digital gold. Never existed before. You could argue that it's only been 9 months since the entire world agreed that Bitcoin was digital gold, okay? That means you can now issue digital gold-backed credit or digital credit. If Bitcoin is digital gold, it's digital capital. And that means that any credit instrument backed by Bitcoin becomes digital credit. What we're talking about, is, if you look at it myopically, you're just thinking, well, how are these companies helping Bitcoin? If you look at it more grandly, the real point is, how are these companies transforming the equity market and the credit market? If I create a company that buys Bitcoin and I accumulate $1 billion of Bitcoin, I have $1 billion of digital capital. What can I do with it? I can issue digital credit. Now, I want you to think about this for a bit. If I had $1 billion of gold, I'm a gold bank, a goldsmith. I have $1 billion of gold. I issue $100 million of gold-backed credit, gold notes. And then they thought, well, why not 500 million? And then they thought, why not $1 billion of gold notes? And you know where the story goes next. They're like, well, why not $2 billion of gold notes? Why not $10 billion? Pretty soon you had $5 of gold-backed credit for $1 of gold, okay? And the entire modern banking system grew out of that issuance of credit, and the credit started from gold. And what was the strongest credit? 1-for-1 backed, right? 1-for-1 backed would be the strongest credit. Okay, so that means $1 billion of Bitcoin could, in theory, be used to issue $1 billion of Bitcoin-backed credit that would be 1-for-1 backed.
Right.
Okay. Now, what's that displacing? It's displacing mortgage credit based upon retail houses, residential houses, commercial credit, that's credit based on commercial real estate, a building that's half empty, right? Or it's displacing corporate credit based upon the cash flows of a company. Or it's displacing, fiat credit that's based on the promise of a government to print more credit, right? That is the status quo. And how big is that? Hundreds of trillions of dollars of those 20th century credit instruments. And when you understand Bitcoin treasury company, the very compelling business model is, I accumulate a bunch of Bitcoin capital through equity. Then I begin to issue credit instruments against it. And those could be bond-like instruments. They could be convertible bond instruments. They could be preferred instruments. They could be convertible preferred instruments. They could be variable floating preferreds. So there are all sorts of types of credit that can be issued against the underlying digital gold.
And that brings us to the end of the video. Michael Saylor's vision has once again illuminated Bitcoin's deeper meaning, not just as a digital asset, but as the new form of gold for the modern age. His ideas echo a moment in history when around 600 BC, humanity agreed that gold would preserve wealth across generations. Now, that same trust is being reborn on the blockchain. Bitcoin, in his eyes, is the digital heir to that ancient promise of value and freedom. If this perspective left you inspired, share your thoughts in the comments below. Remember to like the video, share it with those who need to see it, and subscribe for more video that uncover the future of Bitcoin and finance. Thanks for watching, and until the next one, keep questioning, keep learning, and stay ahead in the world of crypto.